The thing that most businesses don't realize until it's too late is that you can post every day. You can jump on every trend. You can outsource your marketing to an agency, a VA, or even hire your own team. But if you don't actually know who you're selling to and you don't go and do that market research, none of it actually matters. Hello, and welcome back to another episode on the Beauty Industry Leaders podcast. I'm your host, Sammy Kennedy. Now, a quick update with how the podcast studio is going. It honestly looks incredible. Like, I am so proud and so happy to see my vision come to life. I remember when I was trying to come up with different ideas of chairs and what the mic stands were going to look like and how we were going to have the room set up on the walls, and just to finally take a photo of how it's looking right now compared with what I created when I put everything into Sora and got it to make an AI generated photo of what I wanted the studio to look like. It was like exactly what I wanted. And I haven't done this all on my own. I've been very grateful to have my mum and dad, Nick, my grandparents have even come and popped in and given their feedback. But it's been really, really beautiful to have that support from my family. And I'm really grateful that everything that I put into Wild West Bowling and kind of just putting things on pause in my own life has been reciprocated this year, and just getting to do something cool with them again. It's really nice to have everyone on board. And I guess that's one of the things I value and I love about family business is that whether it's my parents doing something, whether it's my grandparents, or whether it's me or my brother, we're all there for each other. And I think that kind of bond becomes unbreakable, and it really does help you through the highs and lows of life. So very, very grateful for all of them. And Nick, of course, he has been very, very patient with me. I have had a fair few mentee bees along the way. We've had issues with the slats. You know, we left all the liquid nails in one car and only had an hour and a half to go install things, and then we couldn't do it. There was just a few times where I was just super stressed, and he has been the calm within the storm. So shout out to you, Nick. Thank you. But also, I just want to say, thank you so much for all the feedback I've been getting on social media. You know, even with choosing some things, I didn't know what fake plants to get. I didn't know what lighting, this and that. And the amount of people who have reached out or given me advice or wanted to come and help. I even had Moselle the other day. She saw that my dad had put these brand new, beautiful white chairs that I'd bought onto all this black sawdust. And I was like, what the hell were you thinking, mate? And she just said, yep, I'll come over and I'll help. And she vacuumed it all up and helped me get the room set up, which was amazing. So, you know, as a woman, I think for some reason throughout my whole life, I've always convinced myself that, you know, you've got to be strong and you've got to do it all your own and put everyone else first. But probably within this project itself, it's completely transformed the way I think about things. And I've been able to call on my community. I've been able to call on my family, my friends, my audience, and they've been incredibly supportive. So I think that I've now shifted in, you know, that hustle hard and try to do it all yourself. It doesn't always work. And I think it's taken me reaching extreme burnout a couple times to really feel that and realize that. But now, you know, even I got sick the other day. I got food poisoning and I felt like crap. But to be able to, you know, let someone know and have them bring me some water and some medicine, I just think if you're going through something and you feel so alone, you know, ask yourself if you had friends in your life or someone close to you going through something, and who would you drop everything for and go help? And I feel like when you think about it that way and you would do it for them, then ask them. If they wouldn't do it for you, then obviously there's a bit of an issue there. But that's how I figured out in this whole time of me isolating myself and being no, you have to do it all on your own. Don't ask for help, be self-made, blah, blah, blah. I just don't believe in that anymore. And I think that as women, we need to ask for support. We need to delegate. And when we start doing that, life gets to be so much easier. We're happier for it. You know, it's nice to have support. So That has been something really beautiful that I've been able to experience throughout this project, and I'm very, very grateful for. Now, as I was coming towards the end of the year, I thought to myself, what could I do to set you up for next year? And I know right now you're probably busy with clients, bookings are going crazy at the moment and you don't have a moment to slow down. But I know that when January comes around, you're going to have some time on your hands. And so if you're busy right now, but you're free in January, you can come back to these episodes and they're already out. So I'm doing this for you. Welcome to part 1 of our marketing series. In this series, I'm going to be releasing episodes that break down step by step what you can do to level up your marketing. Now, this isn't based on trends or algorithms. It's based on proven psychology, frameworks, and tactics that I've trialed and battle tested myself across 5 of the businesses I've done marketing for in different industries, as well as taught to over 350 business owners that I've worked with in the last 3.5 years. Now, if you feel like you're doing everything right in your marketing, but nothing is landing, this episode is going to make everything click. The thing that most businesses don't realize until it's too late is that you can post every day. You can jump on every trend. You can outsource your marketing to an agency, a VA, or even hire your own team. But if you don't actually know who you're selling to and you don't go and do that market research, none of it actually matters. And you probably felt this before. So today, we're diving into exactly what to look for when doing your market research before you launch anything, before you hire anyone, before you create your next offer, and before you invest another dollar into marketing. If you've ever wondered why marketing feels hard, why growth feels slow, or why your content isn't converting, this is the missing link. So let's get into it. Are you the type of person that feels like you don't actually know who you're actually selling to? And no matter what you post or put out there, you just can't get clients. Or if I asked you about your target market, you might come back and say something like, yeah, I've got 18 to 65 because I've got some really young clients, but then I've got some old ones and, we've got a bit of everyone. Like imagine if someone told you that a treatment is 50 to 90% effective. Would you trust it? Probably not. So the more you can actually close that gap and get specific, the better. If you're the type of person who jumps on every new trend, or you start doing things simply because everyone else is, and you're running your business reactively, then you definitely need to tune into this episode. The other day, I got a message from someone who said they were struggling with clients, and then a clinic down the road had bought a certain machine, and then they were like, well, we need to get the same machine. And it made me go, no. Why are you doing this? Like, do some research first. Like, understand, why would you buy the exact same thing? Why would you not buy something different? Another message came through and it was like, I've just signed up to this course. And for me, I was like, all right, what are you going to do your course on? Like, have you done some market research? And so I'm not saying this in a way that I'm shaming other people or saying that what they're doing is wrong. I just think that there's a lot more thought that needs to go into these decisions before they're made, because when you're making these investments, whether you're purchasing a product, whether you're doing a new marketing strategy, whether you're starting a new business, creating a new offer, I know this falls under marketing, but really this applies to everything you do, because the more market research and the more planning you do beforehand, the less mistakes you're going to make. Like, I'm not saying you won't make any mistakes, but you will make less careless mistakes that cost you a lot of time and money that could easily be avoided. Now, the type of people who don't do market research, they usually invest in ad agencies, or they outsource to a social media marketing agency, or they bring a virtual assistant on board, but they don't fully understand what it is you want. Or you feel like, all right, they're putting content out there, I don't know if it's performing well or not. And then you feel like you're getting ripped off. Now, a byproduct of not having good marketing and also not good market research is that you get the wrong type of clients inquiring. And this can be very painful because it costs money to run ads. And if you're getting all the wrong people inquiring, then it feels like wasted money. If you do the wrong type of strategy and you spend all that money on having a graphic designer create something for you, or a team member go create all these carousels or reels or whatever it is, like it's going to feel like a waste and it's going to be frustrating and disheartening when it doesn't work out. Now, another thing that I see people doing is they create content that impresses other people in the industry, but it doesn't actually serve your audience. Skin therapists, I've got to say, they are probably most prone to doing this without realizing. Like when you talk about your AHAs and your BHAs and your peels and lymphatic cells and, all this language, like they don't get what that means. And so you've got to really break it down into language that your ideal client understands, not another person who has gone and studied dermal therapy and knows all the science behind it. And so what can happen when we're not doing our market research is that there's confusion for you around why is no one buying? You feel like your content isn't landing no matter how much you put out there. And then what happens? You look at all the trends, you see that other competitors are posting something else, and then you kind of go, oh, that's what I got to do. And you start mimicking what they're doing rather than understanding your audience, finding the gaps and creating something new and innovative. Now, I want to share a bit more about my story because I have lived through this. My whole life growing up, my dad was always an ideas person. He was the visionary. And, we had 8 different businesses. And within those 8 businesses, a lot of them didn't necessarily fail, but they didn't grow either. And they just kind of went stagnant, and it was just like a slow kind of death. Like it wasn't going to scale. It wasn't going to get us where we wanted in life. And so he would close one down and then he would open up another one. And so most of the time, because the businesses weren't actually doing as well as we wanted them to, we were actually running 2 to 3 businesses at a time. So we would have the bowling alley and go-karts. We had bowling alley, go-karts, and the drive-in cinema. We had the bowling alley and the rodeo and the go-karts. We had the bowling alley, the rodeo, and the music festival. So there was always multiple projects going on at once because we didn't do our market research, we didn't have a strategy, and we didn't go all in on making one thing work really, really well. And so by dad not doing that market research and truly understanding, he kept opening up businesses that were his passion or his hobby. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with wanting to pursue something like that. But the problem that will come up is that you're essentially creating an idea that you're interested in, but you're not actually seeing if the market is interested in it. And so what happens is you launch something that no one really wanted in the first place. And then you've got to try convince them, or you've got to try go out there and find that target market and create it when it doesn't actually exist. And so how much easier is it to sell food to a starving crowd versus selling food to people who are already full and they don't want to eat? So coming into beauty industry leaders, coming into Wild West Bowling, I can tell you right now, the amount of market research that I have done has helped us make a lot of money. That's the reality of it. Like people want to make money, right? Like how do you make money? How do you stop losing money? How do you stop wasting money? You got to do the market research. You got to put that time in. And sometimes it does take a little bit longer. Sometimes you've got to be buried in different Facebook forums, Reddit forums, ChatGPT, the internet. You've got to spend some time looking into things because just reactively going, this is a good idea, I'm going to do this, that's emotional. That is reactive. In these situations, you need to be logical. Go and have a look at the data. Go and look at the statistics. Make sure that this is actually viable. Otherwise, you can land yourself into $500,000 debt without even realizing. And this is exactly what happened in our second business, SimWorld Australia. We had it in the Albany Plaza, and then we got offered this great opportunity to go to Westfield Carousel in Perth. And, with all of the shop fit out costs, plus the lease and all the other fees that they add on into having a business in a shopping center, it was insane. The business slowly started dying. We had to break out of the lease early. We only lasted 2 years. And as a result, we got into $500,000 debt. And I really wish that my parents had someone advising them and someone who could have guided them through or asked them more questions before they went and pulled the trigger on something. Like there was no real market research. There was a little business plan, but it wasn't anything solid. And it just I don't know. I look back and I go, wow. And even my dad, he said it's the most stupid decision he's ever made, but it did teach us some valuable lessons. And I want to be able to share with you like what I've changed now through growing up with these experiences of not having the information to make a good business work. Like there's so many things that have to happen behind the scenes for a good business to work. It's not always luck. People see these overnight successes, but let me tell you, they've either had failures behind the scenes, they've invested in the right mentors or people guiding them, or they've spent a lot of time doing market research and investing in having a good strategy behind the business. Now, when we went into Wild West Bowling, I remember I needed to apply for the liquor license, and we had to do something called a public interest assessment. Now, usually you get a lawyer to do this. We didn't have money to hire a lawyer, so guess what? I had to step up and do all of the work myself. And within the public interest assessment, it was quite interesting. You have to do deep research into the population, the split of the demographic, what is the median household income, what is the age, how many people are retired, how many people are working, how many people are in schools, what is the culture and ethnicity. Like there was just so much information out there that really opened my eyes up. And it helped me with understanding how we could actually price our services accordingly so that the people living in Albany were able to not only purchase, but also repeat and come back on a regular basis. We didn't want to be like Perth where someone comes once a year because it's so expensive and that's all they're willing to do. We have customers who come back weekly or every month, which is incredible. At the old bowling alley, it was so crap that they'd only probably want to come once a year. And that would only be if they were forced to, for a kid's birthday party or something. So as a result of doing all this market research, we were able to sell out events in under 48 hours. We nailed our pricing, which led to more frequent visits, as I said. Our content has gone viral. Our business actually went on to win Themed Venue of the Year award at the AHA, Hospitality Awards of Excellence. So now, finally doing everything right, it made me get really clear on what groundwork needs to be done before launching an offer, opening up a business, creating a marketing strategy, whatever it is you're doing. Because if you don't, here's what happens. Launches and offers fail because they don't meet real customer needs. You've got marketing that completely misses the mark, wrong message, wrong audience, wrong positioning. You'll have a poor allocation of marketing spend, so you either waste your budget on ineffective channels or messaging. You have low customer acquisition, low conversions, high churn, or a lot of price resistance. You'll have an inability to spot shifts in the market demand or competitive threats, leading to stagnation in your growth. And then lastly, you're making all your decisions based on guesswork instead of increasing risk and decreasing long-term sustainability. So, marketing. Let's actually break down what marketing actually means. The definition of marketing is that marketing is the comprehensive process of understanding customer needs and using that knowledge to create, promote, and sell products or services for a profit. It involves market research, strategy, branding, pricing, advertising, and distribution to communicate value and build customer relationships. Ultimately, the goal is to make customers aware of a product, connect with them, and persuade them to choose it over competitors. So now that you actually understand what marketing is, isn't it interesting when it says what it involves? Market research. And let me tell you, the amount of people that come and work with me one-on-one who have never done any kind of market research, they just see what other people are doing and then they put together what I wish I had when I started and then they call it a day. This is not market research. Yes, seeing what your competitors are putting out there, it is a form or a step that you would do in market research, but you should not solely be basing it on that. There's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes that you need to be looking into before you decide to invest all your dollars into starting a new business, creating a marketing strategy, launching a new offer, whatever it is. Let's talk about what we actually need to do market research on. So step one, We want to start with the big picture and do an industry deep dive. So the things that I like to look into at this stage are current trends shaping the industry. So what's rising and what's fading? Growth projections and future predictions, major players and what makes them stand out, common business models and which ones are actually profitable long term, and key challenges for new entrants. Now, this is important because it tells you whether you're stepping into an opportunity or walking into a saturated, declining, or unstable market. So if you understand what trends are shaping the industry and you can see what's popular and what's not working anymore, like I wouldn't even bother offering waxing in a beauty salon anymore. There's laser, it's higher ticket, it's more profitable than waxing. You know, if I was looking at what trends are coming in, what's going out, I might also look at, is there something that I could incorporate here with AI? If personalization is something that's coming in instead of the fading of cookie cutter approaches, then that becomes an opportunity where I'm like, okay, well, how could I bring personalization into my business? Growth projections and future predictions, like what are the industry leaders saying? What's buzzing in the news? What are you seeing in the latest hair and beauty mags? What are you seeing on TikTok? What are you seeing on Instagram? Who are the major players? Like look at them, not just your local salon or, someone who's selling products just in your state. Like look across Australia wide or look in America, look in other countries, like just see where is the future headed. I always love looking at L'Oreal because they own 36 different companies and they are the beauty industry leaders. They have the biggest market share in the whole world when it comes to anything beauty. And so sometimes when you're looking at what other people are doing in your local area or you're looking just in Facebook groups, they're not great people to take inspiration from. Like look at the big players. There's a reason why people are industry leaders. It's important that you actually analyze and see what is it that they're doing well and what can you learn from that? What does make them stand out from everyone else? Now, the whole common business models and which ones actually are profitable long term, have a look at which businesses have stood the test of time. Do they have staff? How many staff? How much are they paying for their rent? How much revenue are they bringing in? Obviously, you can't always just go up and ask someone, but you can definitely do some research online to get an understanding or work out averages of what each team member would bring in and then look at the overall revenue versus what it would cost, realestate.com. Like there's a few different things that you can do sneakily behind the scenes to get an understanding of what these businesses are doing. But you don't want to jump into a business that sounds like a great idea and then you're actually overspending, you're not profitable and you crash and burn. Can't tell you the amount of businesses that overspend on fit outs or they go into a big commercial space, but they actually don't have enough team members to cover the operating costs. And so sometimes if you don't have a plan to scale and you're overspending in certain areas, it can eventually end up in you going bankrupt because you haven't actually looked at how you're going to expand, how you're going to manage your cash flow, how you're building profit into your business. And also another thing with the new entrants, like what are new people breaking into this market struggling with? And how can you be different? That is like, look at the bigger picture. Don't just go, this is a good idea. I feel like this. Like as soon as you say, I feel like, I know that you're being emotional because I feel is a very female way of reacting to something. Whereas males go, I know. And the no is more logical. With this part of business, this is where you step into your masculine. I'm all for being a visionary and feeling into things and like go with the flow, trust your intuition. But for this part of business, this is where you need to step into your masculine. The second thing I want to do after that is get crystal clear on your target market. So specifically within this, you want to research who your audience is, demographics, psychographics, and behavioral. You want to understand their biggest pain points, desires, fears, and their unmet needs. You've got to understand how they currently solve the problem and how your version could be better, either faster, better quality, more convenient. Figure out what are their objections and barriers to actually purchasing what it is that you're trying to offer. This gives you an understanding of what solutions you need to create for them. Look at what influences their purchasing decisions. What drives them? Is it status? Is it scarcity? Is it exclusivity? Is it insecurity? Like, what helps them make a decision on something? And then what you want to do is write out 1 to 2 different customer personas. So you could have one for your business as a whole if you're offering a lot of different things. But what I personally like to do is I build out a customer persona for each of my different products or services. Because if you think of like skin, for example, someone who wants anti or pro-aging treatments versus someone who wants hydrating treatments, they're very different kind of customers. Yes, there may be an overlap, but maybe the age is different, or maybe the reason why they want to get it is completely different. If you're selling brows as a service, then you're going to have a different customer persona for someone who wants to buy brows as a done-for-you service versus training. You know what I mean? So like being able to get clear on who that ideal client is, build out that customer persona or avatar, it's just going to give you the clarity on exactly who you're speaking to. Now, your marketing will only hit when you speak to the lived experience of your audience, not just assumptions. And like I was saying before, I've had this conversation with people in our industry and they, I ask them, what's your target market or your ideal client? They go, 18 to 65. I'm like, no, it's too broad. You're not going to be able to sell anything with that. Someone who is 18 is going to be on TikTok. They're going to be on Snapchat. Someone who's 65, probably reading the newspaper, maybe listening to the radio, maybe has Facebook. Someone who is 30, on Instagram, on Facebook. Now, the type of content they're attracted to, the type of pain points, the type of pleasure points, it's completely different. And so the more specific you are, look at the majority, look at your favorite clients, look at the people who spend the most money with you. What are the common traits or themes, and what does that age gap look like? Because the closer you get it, the more aligned your marketing messaging will be, the easier it'll be for you to attract more clients. Now, the third thing that I like to look into is competitor intelligence, which is allowing you to know the landscape. So what you want to look into is direct, indirect, and alternative competitors, what they do well and where they fall short. Now, you can look through reviews. That will always show you some great clues as to where you can be different in your business. Look at their branding, messaging, pricing, services, and customer experience. Now, if you are someone who sells wall panels, like the slats whole situation that I've been through, if you saw that on my stories, you would know that customer service, updates, response times, transparency, that is what I value. And having a bad experience there, like if I knew someone else who would respond, shipping times were trustworthy, it was done efficiently, like 5-star experience right there. And so have a look through the reviews because they always leave clues. Have a look at their marketing strategies. What's working for them? Are there gaps in their offers or the customer journey that you can fill? You can't position yourself as premium, trusted, or different solution if you don't understand who you're up against. Now, as we move into the fourth section, I like to look at industry shifts, innovations, and consumer behavior. So what you want to monitor is new technologies, tools, and innovations, any cultural, generational, or economic shifts. One of my friends, Indy, she was Studio 85. She came on the podcast earlier. She did a great post the other week about the difference between a millennial bride versus a Gen Z bride and how they care about different things. The millennial bride cares more about trust, about the client experience. They care about referrals and things like that, whereas the Gen Z bride prefers instant response, pretty Instagram. So looking into these things can be very beneficial so you understand, are the current strategies that other businesses are using like not really working for the new demographic that's coming into the market? Like, how do we actually ensure that we're relevant and we're going to increase our opportunity to the type of people we're selling to? Have a look at how major events like the pandemic or economic downturn shift buying behavior. And if something like that were to happen to your business, how would you handle it? Are there regulatory or legal changes that could affect operations? We're seeing this right now. APRA, injectors, skin, like all these things are happening in the real world and like how are we meant to handle them? How do we navigate it? If this happens, then what do we do in response? Have a look into consumer behavior changes over the last 3 to 5 years. So back in the day, everyone wanted to look like Kylie Jenner and Kim Kardashian. I'm sure some people still do. You know, it was the big eyelash extensions, hair extensions, Botox, filler. And now we've seen a big shift in more natural beauty. And so if you're trying to bring out a product where there's a huge shift and people don't want that anymore, then you're already putting yourself at such a disadvantage. If you can look into these things, it helps you stay relevant, it future-proofs your business, and it helps you stay ahead of client expectations. Now, the fifth step of my market research process is validate demand before you build anything. So what you need to check here is search volume, keywords, any trending terms. Have a look at competitor demand indicators. So like wait lists, booking times, things that have sold out. A really great way for you to test demand without going all in, putting money into a product line or investing in a new train or anything like that. Build a wait list. See how many people sign up, and that will show you whether there's demand for it or not. Look at feedback, objections, buying hesitations. Have a look at whether the audience is problem aware, solution aware, or unaware. Most of the time when I was marketing the profitable pricing calculator, my audience didn't even know what profit was. They just knew that they work hard, they make money, they're burnt out, and even though they're making good money, they still have nothing to show for it at the end of the year. And so speaking to the burnout, speaking to the feel like money comes in and just goes out, that was what attracted people in over talking about being profitable. And so when you start to understand where your target market is at, what they're going through, how they're thinking about it, then that allows you to start speaking to them in their language and meeting them where they're at, instead of just talking about something that just goes completely over their heads. If they're unaware, you got to make them aware of what the problem is, and that is by highlighting the kind of things that they're doing or experiencing so that you raise the awareness. If they're solution aware, but they're not taking action, then you need to educate them on what options that they're currently looking at and how yours is different, how it gets a better result, how it's going to support them in achieving their goals. If your audience is problem aware, then maybe they're not making a decision and they're thinking, oh, well, is there a solution to this or not? So you've got to educate them on what the solution is so that they do understand that there is a solution. Like for me, when I had my skin issues, I didn't even know you could go to a skin therapist. I just thought you go to the dermatologist, but the dermatologist had a really long wait list. So there was no way that I was going to get onto it. And that's when, after putting up a Facebook post, I found out you could actually go to a skin therapist and get help. Like crazy to think that that actually happened, but sometimes you're just not even problem aware, and then you're not even aware that there's solutions for that problem and what those solutions look like. You know, my mum used to use the St. Ives apricot scrub for her acne, I'm pretty sure. And I was just like talking to a client the other day about how that's one of the worst products to use. So some people just have no idea, and this is why you've got to meet them where they're at and use language and give them relatable scenarios that they're like, oh, that's me, so that they can become aware. Now look for real data from polls, surveys, DM chats, warm audiences. Like look at what people want, not necessarily what you think they want. Like if you think they want something, put it to the test, put it on your stories, create a poll and actually see what they want. Because when I did this for the podcast, I was like, oh, this is really interesting. Like people want more stuff about money, they want more stuff about marketing, and they want more stuff about mindset. And so that's how I've then been able to go, all right, how do I create my podcast strategy around this? Now, if I were to go into how to, hire a team, how to train up a team, how to do this, like maybe some people would find value from it, but majority of my audience weren't as interested in it. And so sometimes you can go to all this effort and create something, but people don't really want it as much as they may want something else. So it's good to do that market research. Why does this matter? Well, it matters because you avoid creating offers no one wants. Now, the sixth thing I like to look into is financial feasibility and the profit potential. So what you need to calculate is your startup or setup costs, pricing benchmarks in your industry, typical profit margins, what's standard versus what's achievable, revenue stream options, services, products, memberships, upsells, bundles, partnerships that can reduce cost or grow reach, because this way you make decisions based on numbers and sustainability, not emotion. And you're probably sitting here going, why are we doing a marketing series and I have to think about finances? Well, if you don't know how much it costs you to run your business, you don't know how to price your services. If you don't know how to price your services, you don't know how much profit you're actually making. If you don't know how much profit you're actually making, you don't know what your revenue goals are or your targets are. And then if you don't know what your revenue goals are, how are you meant to break down how many services or products you need to sell to reach them? And so whenever I start with a new client, I always go through their break-even costs and their profitable pricing first before we do a marketing strategy, because I need to understand exactly how much profit they're making, reverse engineer their financial goals, and then look at how many of their product, service, training offer, whatever it is that they need to sell to reach that financial goal. Because then you can look at, all right, this is what I'm going to focus my marketing efforts into. This one service, I'm going to create a whole campaign around it so it sells more. This is smart marketing, because you make decisions based on numbers and sustainability, not emotion. Now, the seventh thing that I like to look into is location, demand, and market saturation. So what to assess here? Well, look at market trends in your region or city. Look at local demand for your service, competitor density and gaps in the area, underserved suburbs, niches, or audience segments. Now, the reason why you want to look into this specifically is you don't want to go invest all this time and money into opening up shop in an area that has a lot of competitors and you're just going to struggle and you're not going to stand out. Or having a high-end luxury business in an area where the average median income is $600 a week. It's just going to set you up to struggle. And I think when I look at the businesses that we've had over the years, and location being a huge thing, like the difference between having a business where maybe 2,000 cars go past it a day versus 50,000 cars going past it a day, it makes a huge difference. And opening up a business where there's 20 other people doing the exact same thing in the same area versus you having a unique selling point or offering something that they don't and you're the go-to, there's just a huge amount of pain you can save yourself from if you look into this, because there's a lot of opportunity out there. But I think people get too caught up in looking at what everyone else is doing and just copying it, but in their own way and tweaking a small thing. But if everyone's zigging, you got to zag. And I think that's what creates a smart business, is having that strong, unique selling point, and then also knowing how you're going to outsmart the market. How are you going to outsmart your competitors? How are you going to do something so innovative and different that when they come across your business, you're not in a saturated market because you're the one and only, like there's built demand for you because you're the only one that can do this. The right offer in the wrong location will still fail. And I think if you can understand why it will fail, it's because there's so much to it than just having this perfect product or service. It's the type of people that you're trying to attract, the type of way you do your marketing, the type of messaging you put out. Like, it needs to all come together cohesively. And this is why I look at business as in a holistic business strategy, because without the branding, you can't attract the right client. Without the marketing messaging, you can't attract the right client. Without the customer experience, you're going to attract the wrong client. Like, there's just so much that goes into it. You need to understand these things. Otherwise, there's going to be huge incongruencies in your business. Now, if you can, the 8th step is to test the idea before you scale it. So what you need to analyze is the size of the market that is needing this solution, the uniqueness of your approach, how you can differentiate in a competitive space, the risks or challenges to expect and plan for, the pricing strategy that attracts the right buyer. Because if you are doing everything the exact same way as everyone else, you're going to struggle. Like, let me tell you, you are going to struggle. And so by doing all the prep work that we've spoken about in this episode, you can identify the opportunities, the gaps, the pain points of your customer, the things that they want done differently. And when you start to create a business model or a marketing strategy around that, that's when everything starts to work for you. Because if you've done that foundational work, you know exactly what the market needs. You know how to innovate. You know how to bring a marketing strategy, a business vision to life. So make sure you're testing this before you scale it, because this is where your ideas turn into bankable business models. And then the last step, I like to bring everything together, kind of into a recap. So I've got these insights put into more of a strategy. So what I like to do is do a summary of who I'm going to serve, what exactly it is that they need, what are the gaps that my competitors missed, where are the big opportunities, how should I position, price, and deliver my offer, and where is the niche or micro market where I can dominate. Now, this is the foundation of a brand, of a marketing strategy, of a business that wins and grows. So what I want you to do is have a listen back to this episode as you need to, and work through doing essentially market research for your whole business. Not just the marketing aspect of your business, but like your whole business, because this will help you with your marketing. This will help you with the way you operate your business. And to be honest, it's like a full reset. Sometimes we get so caught up in the daily running of doing things that we don't actually step back and do an analysis. And I can tell you right now, the businesses that do the market research, that regularly review and reflect on their progress and look at what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses, what are the opportunities, what are the threats, they are the ones that grow fast, because they're taking the lessons and they're looking for ways to level up, and they're seeing what's working in the market, what's not, what do people want. If you can keep doing market research throughout your time in business, you will always stay ahead of the curve. This is the difference between letting life happen to you versus letting life happen for you. Because the more aware you are, the better quality decisions you can make, and the less reactive you are. You become proactive. And so you set yourself up for success, because no matter what happens, you have got a strategy in place, because you have covered all your bases. You have thought about what can go wrong. You have thought about what you can improve if things do start picking up. This is all about building that strong foundation, and it starts with market research. All right, that brings us to the end of part 1 in our marketing series. And if there's one thing I want you to take away from today, it's this. Marketing doesn't start with posting. It doesn't start with branding. It doesn't start with aesthetics, tactics, or trends. It really starts with understanding your industry, your market, your competitors, and the actual people you're trying to sell to. When you skip this, everything becomes harder. Your content feels flat, your offers don't convert, and you end up building your business on guesswork instead of intentional strategy. But when you do this groundwork, you give yourself the unfair advantage most business owners never take the time to build. Now, if you want to go deeper and make this entire process easier, I put together an in-depth market research cheat sheet. It includes the exact ChatGPT prompts, questions, and frameworks I personally use across all of my businesses and with my clients. So you can nail your research without spending hours trying to figure out what to ask or where to start. You can grab it in the show notes. And make sure you stay tuned for part 2, because we're diving into one of the most important skills you'll ever master: knowing exactly who your ideal client is and how your target market thinks. No more broad audience, no more I help everyone, no more confusion. I'm going to show you how to identify, segment, and understand your ideal client on a level that completely changes the way you market and sell. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Audience exclusive.